Europe would not decolonize and hand over Egypt to Muhammad Naguib and Jamal Abdel Nasser for the drums to be beaten, we are independent, and would not hand over Indonesia to a fellow named Ahmad Sukarno so the Indonesians can jump for joy, we are independent now. And they would not hand over Malaysia to a fellow named Tunku Abdul Rahman, and they would not hand over Pakistan to another fellow named Muhammad Ali Jinnah, etc., 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 etc. And all the natives start dancing, drum beating. We have something called independence. While Europe is laughing its head behind the wall. Look at them. Blind like bats. Europe would not decolonize until Europe was ensured that a new financial system was in place in which real money was now replaced by paper money. At the beginning, when paper money was introduced, it was redeemable for gold. What does redeemable mean? Yes, exchange. In the United States of America, until the 1920s, you could take $20 US in notes, paper, and go to any bank, and you can ask for 1 ounce of gold, and you'll get it. And the banks that issued the paper money and the governments that issued the paper money, they gave their word that this is the value of the paper. And they even print on the paper, guess what they printed? In God we trust. In other words, when we give our word to you that 20 American dollars is equivalent to 1 ounce of gold, our word is as good and as solid as the word of God himself. But in 1933, something strange happened that should have caused our ulama to stop eating halwa. Uncle Sam was broke. So guess what Uncle Sam did? In April 1933, Uncle Sam enacted legislation prohibiting all Americans from keeping gold. You have to return any gold that you have, not jewelry. Jewelry you can keep. Any gold that you have as coins or as bullion to Uncle Sam, and he will give you paper. And you have to trust in God that Uncle Sam's word is as good as the word of God. So all of America gave their gold to Uncle Sam, meaning the US government. If they caught you with gold after a certain date, then you could be fined 10,000 US dollars and spend 6 months as a guest of Uncle Sam in one of his prisons. So all of America went and gave their gold and took the paper. After Uncle Sam had collected all the gold, guess what he did? He gave his word, but he changed his word. This is called values. These are the people who today rule the world. They gave their word and they broke their word. Uncle Sam changed the price of gold from $20 an ounce of gold to $35 an ounce of gold. The American people woke up that morning and said, our own government ripped us off. Yes, it was your own government that ripped you off. And then Uncle Sam made it known, you better come back and buy your gold quick before I change the price again. So the American people had to go and buy back their gold from Uncle Sam at $35 an ounce. And in the process, Uncle Sam ripped off the American people of almost half of their wealth. The Prophet said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, this transaction is one based on deception, through which you get a profit to which you are not entitled. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam described this as riba. Why did this happen? Because the difference between real money and paper money, money which is sunnah and paper money, is that money which is sunnah is money in which the value of the money is in the money. Someone should teach that to the Saudis. Go teach it to the Saudis who want to teach Islam to all the rest of the world. Go teach it to the Saudis. The value of the money is in the money. The definition of the paper money is that the value of the money is no longer in the money. And so the value can be changed. Every time the value is changed, the value goes down. What happens when the value of money goes down? The first thing is that there is a massive transfer of wealth from the masses to that predatory elite, which in this case was the government, Uncle Sam. The masses lost half of their wealth, almost half. That's the first thing that happens when the value of the paper money goes down. What's the second thing that happens? The answer is this. I worked for the whole month. I got my salary in gold. Could buy a camel. Took it home. Put it underneath the pillow. Took it out after 5 years. You could still buy the camel. 10 years, you could still buy the camel. But when I get my salary in paper now, you could buy a camel, take it home, put it underneath the pillow. A few years later, when I take it out, can't buy a camel anymore. Could only buy a jackass now. A few years later, I take the money out of my pillow. Can't buy a jackass anymore. Can only buy a goat. A few years later, can't buy a goat anymore. Can only buy murgi. Dajaja. Chicken. I mean, you got to eat a lot of halwa not to be able to see that this is haram. But the distinguished muftis of Islam still have to declare that this paper money is haram. How is it taking place? They started with gold, paper being redeemable in gold. And then came 1933, when we should have woken up to see their game. But we didn't wake up. So in 1944, at the end of the Second World War, they now consolidated the system in the creation of an international monetary system now. Consolidated. The new international monetary system emerges out of the Bretton Woods Agreement in upstate New York. Every Darul Uloom should make it obligatory for the student to study the Bretton Woods Accord. You must study the Bretton Woods Accord to understand monetary economics today, so you can understand the subject of riba. Is it taught in the Darul Uloom? No, it's not. At Bretton Woods, what did they do? They said, no longer will paper be redeemable in gold. Only one paper will be chosen. to be redeemable in gold. All the rest will not. The one paper which was chosen was the US dollar. So the US dollar would be redeemable in gold, but not sterling pound, and not Pakistani rupee, and not Indonesian rupiah, not Australian dollar. No, only one. So this is a major blow to the integrity of money. The second thing that they did was to declare that the only people who could come to Uncle Sam to redeem their paper for gold are governments. You and I can't do it. Only governments, only central banks. So now the entire system has lost 99% of its integrity. It has only 1% left of integrity, but those fellows are still eating halwa. 1% integrity left. That governments, central banks can go to Uncle Sam with their US dollars and demand the gold. Nobody did. From 1944 to 1971, nobody did. The Vietnam War took place in the late 60s, and Uncle Sam printed a lot of paper to finance the war. And Uncle Sam didn't have the gold to back that paper. At Bretton Woods, they had fixed the price of gold at $35 an ounce. Fixed. It is there in the Bretton Woods Accord. Uncle Sam didn't have the gold to back all that paper. So in September 1971, the British government came in one Friday evening, perhaps, with $3 billion and said, Uncle Sam, we want the gold. Uncle Sam knew that the game was up. The game was up. Because come Monday morning, guess who is going to be at the front of the line? Saudi Arabia. Or who behind Saudi Arabia? Kuwait. Huh? And a whole long line of people, of government, central banks, we want the gold. So Richard Nixon retired to Camp David, and then on Sunday he had addressed the American people, and he said, we gave our word, but we don't have to keep our word.
I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connolly to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
We gave our word, but we don't have to keep our word. We will no longer honor our obligation under Bretton Woods to redeem paper for gold from central banks. And so since September 1971, this may be news for some of you who've been eating halwa. Since September 1971, there is no legal link between paper and gold. It's gone. Now all that they have to do, those who want to rule the world, all that they have to do is to take control of money. Anyone who takes control of money can rule the world. And you know that when the Messiah comes, the prophet Isaiah said that when the Messiah comes, he will rule the world. But they rejected the Messiah. Say, وَنَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ هَذَا, he's a bastard. And then they said, look, he died on the cross, so he couldn't be the Messiah. And then the prophet said that Allah will send into the world one who will impersonate the Messiah. Al-Masih al-Dajjal. In order for him to impersonate the Messiah, he will have to rule the world from Jerusalem. If you want to rule the world, you have to first rule the world of money. You cannot rule the world without taking control of money. In order to take control of money, the first thing that you do is to replace real money with paper money. The second thing that you do is you de-link paper from gold. And when paper no longer has any link with gold, you now start attacking the paper so it goes down and down and down and down. When the paper money goes down and down, there is number one, a massive transfer of wealth from the masses to that blood-sucking predatory elite. The second thing that happens is that wages lose value because prices are going up. As wages lose value, people are now imprisoned in something called slave wages. Slave wages. Slave wages. And when a man is imprisoned in slave wages, you have in fact enslaved him. When you enslave a people, you can now control them. You can now rule them.